Let me fire a couple of just rapid fire questions at you, and then I'll ask you my final question, and we'll call it a night while we're still having fun before it becomes arduous. But a rapid fire question from your bio: when and why did you climb a Guatemalan volcano where you could fall in love?
So the year after college, I went to Guatemala and I lived there for a year. I was working with a children's organization down there. I was actually teaching drama to the adults on how to use it with the kids. And while I was there, I was invited to go on a hike up a volcano. It was a very big deal of hiking all the way to the top. Took a whole day, and then you spent the night at the top, and then you spent the whole next day hiking down. I, like Sutton and Louise in Field Guide, am not outdoorsy at all. And I was invited to go on this thing, and this was my year of saying yes. I was saying yes to whatever was presented to me. So I was invited, and I said yes. But I I should not have said yes. I mean, I'm glad I did because I met my husband, but I was not equipped for this, and it's a long story, but I was struggling, and we were in a group of people I just sort of peripherally knew. I was going to church with a group of young people, like teens through 20s, and there we were, and I was dying, but I couldn't go back because we would have been in the middle of nowhere just by myself. And so my husband, who I barely knew, um, carried my stuff with me because we were spending the night at the top, so we had all our overnight stuff. He carried my stuff for me. He stayed by me, even when I fell way back from the group. He just stayed with me. He was just very lovely. And then we got to the top. We spent the night at the top, and then the next day, and I didn't sleep a minute because it was freezing and we're on rocky ground, and I don't sleep outside. And then we went down, and down was easier than up, but I spent most of the time falling. And so he was there, and he was helping me up, and yeah, so that's how I met my husband. And I will never climb a volcano again. I am going to Guatemala though in just a few weeks because we got married, and he lives here now, but we go back regularly.
So he helped you through that experience, and you said, "My God, is there anything in life he couldn't help me through?" Let's.
I mean, yes. And I will say also, he got altitude sickness, and I helped him some too on the thing. So it was a mutual support thing.
Perfect opportunity for a partnership to form to be the basis for lifelong romance. Another rapid fire question: what can you tell us about running a sixth grade balloon business?
Oh goodness. Um, I was in sixth grade, and I don't even remember whose idea it was. I kind of think it was probably my mom's, but maybe it was mine. I was pretty entrepreneurial. I had been a very good Girl Scout cookie sales girl, and I was always saving my money and trying to find ways to make money. And somebody came up with the idea that I have this balloon business, and we rented a helium tank. And I think my parents must have given me some seed money or something for it to get started. But then as it went on, I kept very careful inventory of how many of every color and of different colors of ribbons. And, we bought all the supplies at the party store, and we rented the helium tank. And of course, through my parents' network of friends, people would hire me to bring them bouquets of balloons for parties, or I did a wedding. I did my sixth grade graduation dance. I did quite a lot, and I don't think overall I probably profited a ton, but I did a lot of learning how a business runs, and how you have to profit enough, and how you've got to keep track of your inventory, and all of that. So it was pretty fun, and I probably did it for about a year. But yeah, that was the balloon business.
The experience alone must have been something you carried with you forever. That's fantastic.
And I really should use it in a middle grade novel eventually.
Well, no, now we talked about it, and 10 more books about balloon businesses
Right.
are being written right now.
Take it and fly.
I have a wonderful idea for a new middle grade novel. Am I going to tell anybody about it on the show? Never.
Yeah.
You'll find out about it when it's available. And then one more rapid fire question. You are a certified aerobics instructor, which seems to be not opposite of everything you've been doing, but it's so it's just everything else kind of that fits, that makes sense. So playwriting, yes, acting, that tracks. How did you become a certified aerobics instructor?
Well, I will say my certification has lapsed many, many years ago. I am no longer a certified aerobics instructor. No, that was just in college. Well, all through high school, I did aerobics. At the time, that was the 90s. Step aerobics was the thing. I don't know if it even still is. And then into college, there was a really great health center. And so there was a lot of different kinds of aerobics there that I did. And I kind of am the kind of person that if I'm going to do something, I want to do it like the best I can. I want to know everything about it, and I want to be at the level where I could instruct it. I've backed off that a little bit as I've gotten older, but definitely in my 20s, I was like, well, I'm not going to just do aerobics. I want to know everything there is to know and be able to teach aerobics. And there was also like a performance element of it. I thought the way an aerobics teacher really has to be prepared with their routines, and has to be up in front of everybody and keeping an eye on everybody else. But, putting on enough of an engaging show that people want to come along with them. There were definitely teachers whose classes I would never miss, because of how it wasn't just about the exercise, right? It was about they were funny, they were engaging, they made me want to be there. So I think that was what drew me in, sort of my desire to master it, and also as a theater person or as any kind of creative, I think you're always looking for something that might be a way to make money, on the side, while doing theater. So yeah, and so I went through a whole long training, and I had this big textbook that I had to learn everything in, and I had to go to this testing center and take this hours long. It was like taking the SAT, all kinds of stuff about, anatomy and whatnot. But yeah, I haven't done it for years and years and years. Now I am more of a yoga person, and I have had the thought, and this comes from my desire to master things, of, it'd be cool to do yoga teacher training, but I don't think that is ever going to happen in this lifetime. I need to sort of let go of the need to master things and know that some things I can just experience them.
No, you're going to get your own yoga studio, and you're going to bring back the helium tank, and it's going to be a form of balloon yoga.
Well, that's a thought.
Well, keep in mind. My final question for you is, it's always some variation. This is my catch-all question for all the things I should have asked you about, and just didn't think to do it during our conversation. But if there was one thing you could go back to, a younger version of you, any point in the spectrum you like, maybe toward the start of your writing journey, maybe in the middle, some essential advice or multiple bits of advice you could go back and give yourself that would have made a huge difference and maybe would benefit all the writers listening now, what would that be?
I think that I wouldn't want to do anything differently. So I wouldn't advise myself to have done anything differently, because I feel like everything I have done and everything I have gone through has built me to the place I am, and that it took a long time. But I think what I would want that younger self to know, or I would want other people listening to this, particularly ones who are on a harder road, who have been doing this a while and feel like they'll never get there. I would want them to know that for me, and this may not be the case for everyone, but I hope that at least in my story, it's inspiring. I feel like where I ended up is where I was supposed to end up. And that 10th book, I am so glad that was my debut novel, that I didn't debut with any of the earlier books. That was the right book at the right time, with the right editor and the right agent, at the right stage of my life. If this had happened 10 years ago when my children were toddlers, just completely different stage of my life. And, I would have made it work in its way. But for me now, it took the time it took. But I'm so grateful that it ended or started where it did. That this was what was right in my trajectory, and so I would wish that sort of peace to someone who is struggling and feeling like they'll never get there. I get it. I was there for years. But I would just say that for me, the journey was worth it. And I feel like I'm in a much better place to now move forward and go further than I would have been if things had happened at an earlier stage. So you're on the journey you're on, and maybe you get published with your first book, and that's great, and that comes with its own stresses too. And maybe you're on a longer journey, and if you are, it will be worth it when it comes.
I hope every writer listening is going to clip that and make it their ringtone. And every